All right, going to just talk about how this works, and I'll talk a little bit what's behind the scenes and how it works with K2. This is all exported to the dev branch as of March 15th, and I'm on 22.2 no, 22.1.2. What is it? Let me see. Exported from 22.2.2. Okay. So let's just talk about OpenAI's API keys. If you've got an OpenAI account and you want to generate, they start off with an API key. So I think I had an API key before I even started. So I've done that also in some of my applications, or I'm doing that in chart density. When you create a chart density account, you'll get an API key. And I had already had a little interface for the API key, and I saw this one, and I'm like, yeah, I really need to do this, and this would be something good to kind of start to build out the demo app a little bit more and show you how things can work. So assume you have an application and you need to you use API keys. It's very common. Uh-oh, what's happened? We'll just ignore that. You'll need some interface like this. So this is the OpenAI's API key thing. So if I come here and I try to delete this, this is disabled. I haven't got that one out. I could probably do that with some jQuery or something like that. Pretty sure. I just haven't got that far. I like the pop-ups, the information there. I don't know if the SK dash is just always secret key, but all their keys start with SK dash. I think I've seen that in other places. Maybe that's convention. I'm not doing that, but I could do that. Don't know why we need to do that. So if we want to create a new secret key, we just click a button. You can see it generated the key, it already did the refresh and did the little flash message here, which because I believe this is modal, it's not going away. It will go away as soon as it goes back to that. I'd like to do something similar to that. I'm not real happy with how easy it is to do this in how things show up. In Apex, it's a little inconsistent when you're, say, a success message for processing and otherwise. I have a way of doing it I've built, but it's also imperfect. So shows us our API key, gives us this message. I basically cut and pasted this stuff, I'm just using it again, there. And we have a little copy button off to the right, so we can copy that to our clipboard. I like how it pops up, and I can get rid of that. That's cool. I don't exactly have that. We click OK, and we have our new API key. We do have a last use thing. I don't have that yet. That's something I may add in the future. You can see how many, just tons of little details that you can add to things and how much time it can take to get all these things. So we're trying to get you started. I haven't got all this stuff done. I could spend a lot of time just continue to fine-tune everything. Let's try turning off our background just because that is beginning to annoy me. I think that's it right there. Oh, no. I'm going to try it. This is really annoying me. I'm going to go and see if we can fix this. Hey, there we go. All right, a little better. So revoke key, it does show us the key that's going to be revoked, and then we click, it shows us part of the key, and we click revoke key, and it goes away, and it says revoked. So that's kind of the behavior we're trying to simulate. So I am logged in. There'll be a link right here to this exact video. So if you're watching this video from this is what you're seeing, but it'll be there for reference, and if I do an update, I'll just update the video there with a new version of this. I'm going to try to do this through this little demo app. So there's plenty of documentation on how things work. So we're going to just look at the front end first, and then we'll look at the what it looks like in Oracle Apex, and then we'll look a little bit at the back end. So we've got one key here. If I try to delete it, because I only have one, it does actually allow me to open this. I haven't disabled that. I need to disable it. But if we try to revoke the key, it will give us an error. You cannot revoke your only remaining key. It does this little funky thing because it popped up, and so something changes. Those are just the weird things you need to deal with. in Apex. So we're going to click cancel, goes away. Let's create a new secret key. Now it has already generated the key. It doesn't refresh this until we come back to the page. I do have our little copy thing. It does work. If I click that, it copied it. We don't have a message or anything that could be added. Hey, if this is something you want to make improvements to, this would be a great way to contribute to the K2 project. You could just see some shortcomings here. Install K2, get this demo app up and running, make some changes, and let me know what I need to do to get those changes. I can either import your app and do a diff or whatever and figure it out. But so there it is. We click OK, and it shows up. And so now we can do a delete. So I don't show the key. That's something that could be added. I'm assuming you know which one you're deleting. We do have a red button for revoke. We can cancel. We have got rid of the little X up here. And I'll explain actually why I got rid of that little X. We also can't escape to close that form. The reason is because when you create a secret key here, we need to click this OK. If we click the X or we were able to escape out of this, then we wouldn't be able to get this refresh to happen because the redirect back to that page causes the refresh to happen on this. Now, there is a direct action, or there is a dynamic action called like dialog, close, dialog, whatever. It's not firing for an X or for an escape. It doesn't fire. I don't want to get crazy with the JavaScript and stuff trying to figure it all out. I want to keep it as simple as possible. So this workflow works. So we're going to go ahead and add a few more just to show you the last little thing that goes on here, and then we'll show you how this is working. So we get here. I think this is our last one. We can have 5 API keys. Well, I've got it limited at. So there's 5. Let's try to create 6, and we get user has maximum number of API keys. User already has maximum number of API keys. So we need to delete one in order to get rid of that. Now, they do have like last used. I think what would be cool would be a like what a spark line for usage would be cool, or an actual Google chart. We could generate a Google chart probably from a link pretty easily using my Google Charts API. I think I haven't tried that. But I can't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to do that. So anyway, that would give you like a really specific usage for your keys. If you have an application in which you're giving out keys and you want to know how often they're being used. I could see a description being added here. That is on the back end, but it's not exposed here. But the ability when you create a key to edit it with a description. So maybe not only this, but an edit, which would allow you to then just modify certain attributes about the key, like throttling and stuff like that. You can add. There are ways to implement throttling within K2 using an Arc SQL. There's like I can't remember how to do it, but it's there. It's like a counter, and you can then like set a rate on it, and if it exceeds, you put a key in. If the rate is exceeded, then it starts to throw errors or something. It's one of the demos I'd like to show sometime. So let's see how this is working behind the scenes now. Let's go back to, where do we want to go? App Builder. I don't want to go to App Builder. I just want to go to my app. I guess I got to go up. Okay, so here's K2. This is the demo app that I've exported, and we've got, well, let's just run the application. And so I'm not logged in. So if I try to go here, it should take me to the login automatically. Yep. And we're going to log in with our app at foo, which is a default user I create. When I install K2, I've got that as part of my application in my app users.sql. I create a user. So here we are, the API keys, and you've already seen this. Okay, so what do we want? What do we need to see? Yeah. Start here, 600, page 600 API key demo. I'm just kind of walk through this. So this is the main page, and let's look at if there's anything special here. There are things that I'm going to change, but I haven't got to. We are doing some inline. We have a no close UI dialog title bar, close display. I've added an article which with sources, how to remove the close Xbox from the modal form. This is if you look at these two articles, this is the shortest version of basically a summary of these two articles. I don't know who was first or what, but we're going to create a little inline CSS. I will be adding like a K2 CSS file that has all my CSS in it. And then we're going to assign that class in the modal form. So this is in the parent. You put this in inline, and then you put this in the modal form. Because it actually is like the same object. It's not actually another page. It's a modal pop-up kind of thing. And then to prevent cancel, we put close on escape false. Don't make a capital F there. I don't know if the space matters, but that doesn't work. I figured that out. Obviously, JavaScript is case sensitive. So to the dialog section of the models pages property palette. So hopefully we'll see some of that if I don't. So we have our no close inline CSS, and that's the only custom CSS that we have on this page. Our top text is just that. And then we have a classic report. So we are pulling from the tokens table. Now, ideally, we would have a view called like my token or user tokens. Hopefully, that wouldn't ever conflict with an Oracle. Got to be careful with that. I really like user tokens, but Oracle tends to name things user underscore something, so that might not work. But what we're doing is if we look in the where statement here is a good spot to look at. We're making sure that we get token type API auth token, and we're making sure the user ID in that table is the current user. And we need to use the SAS auth PKG to user ID, which converts the username to a user ID. So you'll see this used a lot, and this makes sure that, basically there's no way anybody can access anyone else's tokens. I say no way. There should be no way. If someone points out a way and breaks this, I need to know that. So we're doing that with our subquery, which gives us a count of the tokens, and then we have this case. Now this doesn't make sense, right? When total token 0, then null. I basically was passing null back, but then you've got formatting around this, and basically you've got no URL with the formatting, and it logged you out. You don't want to do that. So we're just disabling this. I could get rid of it all, but one of the pain points is sometimes if you make a typo or mess something up and you lose this column, then it refreshes the columns and you lose all the formatting associated with that particular column. So, so that's our source for our little list, and we're showing token created and the delete button. I do this little trick. If I don't want a heading, I just put amper null dot. It works fine, doesn't throw any errors, and that doesn't exist, so you basically get a null value. Some things I think you can't leave blank, but you can trick it by doing that. And here's our column formatting. So let's look at our column formatting. So we're doing a div 120, and we're basically, if you just copy, you create an object in Apex and then look at the attributes, you can figure out how to basically do this. And then we just replace the href is going to be the delete button. So that's how we do that, and we get a little trash can because we're using the FA, the icon. Okay. All right. So we got our button, create secret key. We're just going to submit page. Let's go to page processing, create new token. Of course, it happens when create secret key. Request is create secret key because that's what the button is. And here is the code. So what are we doing? Well, we're doing all this count stuff again, which obviously we need. This is redundant, but like I said, I could fine-tune this for a long time. We want to just get it out there. So we're getting a count. If the count is greater than 5, we're going to do an Apex add error. And we're also raising error. Now, if you don't raise an error, you at least need to else this and not do the insert, because it doesn't actually raise an error, but we would get the error message that way. But I'm raising the error just so that it goes out of here. So you get kind of a double error message there. And then we're just doing an insert into tokens. Now, one thing I've talked about in some previous videos is I'm trying to make things work as smooth as possible with just simple inserts. So instead of calling, k2 token.create token, just insert a token in the token table. It should be simple enough. Most of the values should be able to be defaulted, and you've got a token. And you've got anything else that you need around tokens. So we're inserting into the token, we're generating a unique key, we've got our description, we're putting our user ID in. That is also the Auth ID, because sometimes you're going to use an Auth ID, like a token might not belong to a user, it might belong to some other type of object that's shared. And so this way you would be able to say, hey, where Auth ID equals this user is allowed to see these tokens, so that you could have shared tokens if you want to design it that way. And then we're returning token ID into P600 token ID. Cancel, and then we're going to go and do, when we're processing, we're going to go open 601 modally. It's a modal, and we're going to pass our token ID to, we're going to set the 601 token ID to token ID here. So let's go to, I think that's all that is happening on this page. Only thing I could think, any dynamic actions? No. Don't think there's anything special about these. Okay, so let's go to 601. So this is, once we've created a token, this is kind of our confirmation page. I'll fix this camera just a little. And what do we got here? In the attributes, okay, it's a modal dialog. We are doing the close on escape false in our attributes and setting the class to no close. This is how we're getting rid of the little x. We have that CSS in our parent page, and then we're disabling the ability to hit escape. And button float right, yeah, I should have mentioned that. That's to get my little OK button to go to the right. We're just floating all buttons to the right. Obviously, we could do this by ID or something, so there's only one button that needs to happen. Actually, that might be part of the problem I have with something else, but I'll talk about that in just a second. So we got our HTML header. It's just that. And here's our token is getting set. This should be... Is it read-only? I don't know if it's read-only. Might need to test that. Or the default value for our... Oh, this is showing the token. Yeah, so this is showing the token. And yeah, we've got security on it, so we're limiting it to the type of token, and it must belong to the user. So if you passed in a bad token ID that didn't belong, it's not going to work. And we're also set this to per request memory only. We're not going to, we're just trying to limit where this token gets shown and stuff. If we hit copy to clipboard, it's going to run this dynamic action, which is going to do this. So we just say var text box, this select, document, execute command copy. And this is where we would add maybe some type of verification or something if we wanted to flash a message. I played around with that a little bit, but didn't like where it was showing up and stopped fiddling with it. And then if we click OK, we're just redirecting back to page 600, which causes that stuff to get refreshed and that new token to show up. So on page load is when the key gets created. So here's our code. It's just doing an insert into tokens again and returning the token ID into the 601 token ID. And I don't even know, yeah. Actually, I don't think, where am I? I'm on 601. Actually, that might be a mistake, because, ta-da! Actually, that wasn't firing, because, yeah, this is where we create our new token. What am I talking about? So actually, I'm going to get rid of that, and I'll retest after this video and update that it should all work the same. But no, we do not need this. And I don't know what this does either. Let me see. Copy clipboard, insert after. No. Oh yeah. So yeah, this one's important. Let's just call move button. So getting that copy clipboard button into the right spot wasn't working, so I figured this one out. So I've got an ID on it of copy clipboard, and we're going to do an insert after P601 token. It actually puts it before, and it might be that button, other button CSS that I have that's doing that, but it's in the right space and it looks great, so I'm okay. It's supposed to be on the other side. I didn't want to figure that one out. This is working. And that's our copy to clipboard, no processing. Okay, so we're going to save that. Everything should work. Go up to 602. And this is our revoke token page, our revoke API key. We've got the same close on escape false, no close on this modal page to disable the X and the ability to hit escape. And don't worry about the stuff on the global page. That's some of the messaging, flash messaging that is there. Got our HTML code. Here's our token ID, which gets set. Value is protected. We can cancel, which just redirects back. And revoke key is going to submit page, which is going to run our revoke token process. And here it is. So again, select count. Doing security is why we need to get rid of this and just do my API auth token. But I would probably put that in app views, UI views, and then I would create a view called API auth, my API auth tokens, and then we just select from that, and we're safe. We have this exact same stuff in there. So if n equals 1, then you can't revoke your only remaining token. We're going to bump out. Ideally, you would also have some kind of control at the table level that prevents this or something like that, but it's hard. That one's a little hard to implement. Is that tied to a user? Is that tied to a group of users? You know, it really has to be something you control through your code. I'm not going to create any parameters for that. And then if we get down here, we delete the token, and again, we can only delete tokens we own and stuff like that. And then we go back to page 600. So I think I've gotten through everything. So there's still some tweaks that could be made, some tune-ups, some things that could be made better. But it is working. And is there anything else I wanted to... Oh, let's go to the back end. Let's go to the back end. Okay. So if we go to K2lib, K2, and you go down to K2 token, this is the token, basically the token back end. So we have a table called tokens. These are the columns, some description there of what they are. We have a unique index on the token key. So token keys must be unique. Token keys are something you can generate when you create a token so that you can reference the token if you want, any way you want. You can also do it by token type and token alt ID. Those are free reign for you to use however you want. We can, stuff gets generated, like the token key gets generated automatically, or a new token gets generated automatically if they're not there. Let's go to the code. Basically, you can get token rows and do stuff with them. You can create a token. You've seen that you can create a token with a function. As a function, it returns the new token ID, and you can assert that a token is valid. That's probably one of the most important ones. So we've inserted your token. You want to assert a token is valid. That code is here. And we're making sure that it's not expired or that the expiration date is null. We're making sure that it's enabled. I don't think this is enabled, is what I call truthy. meaning in K2, truthy stuff can be anything that's kind of truthy, including cron expressions. But in theory, this would be very easy to enable as a cron, add cron ability to your tokens. And so then you could have tokens that are only valid between certain times. Like maybe you've got a token in which the user's only allowed to use the API in the middle of the night, so you could do that. Obviously, you can write your own wrappers on it and use the isTruthy stuff in ArcSQL, which is part of K2. It's all right here if you want. So if you ever want to work with cron type expressions, I find them very powerful ways to work, especially if you're dealing with people that are slightly technical and understand this stuff. This is, you can do that with K2, with ArcSQL. And if you want to know why, there's different things like ArcSQL. They're kind of like different things I developed over time and I'm ultimately putting all together into K2. K2 is kind of my ultimate development framework. It's the thing that I really want to work on going forward. So we got these two packages. We do have some tests. I haven't run them lately. They were meant to be run manually. But when I get back into doing development on tokens, I'll run these. And if they don't pass, I'll write some new ones. You can see how to write tests are. They're super simple to write with ArcSQL testing. And I've said in other videos, but I don't use testing like everywhere. I just kind of use it to help me along, help document things, make sure things are working now and then. So I use it sporadically as needed as a bridge to get from A to B sometimes, or to help document things. So I think that's it. You need tokens. You can create different kinds of tokens. So I'm using in chart density. I'm going to be using this to create an API authentication token, and then I create a dataset token. So each dataset that you send data, submit data for, has a token that identifies the dataset on my side. So when I see that RESTful call come in, I get that information. I can authenticate you are who you say you are, and I can authenticate what dataset you want to send the data to using the token. So, all right, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching.